First, let me just say that I am the founder of the She's the Boss group. I'm all about shining a light on female founders and women doing extraordinary things in business. And Phoebe is one of them. So hi, Phoebes.
Hi, great to see you. Thanks so much for inviting me on. I'm really rapt to hear.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. So let's just start off by talking about what it is that you do. So what's the name of your business and what do you do?
Right. Well, I've actually got businesses, but the main business that we're working on getting further and further into is the happy money journey. So I've come from a mortgage broking background and financial services background. So I have a financial services business called Clover Financial that I've been running for 17 years.
Right.
About early 2020, I wrote a book, The Happy Money Journey. Now, that book has done, I'm sure you know, that book's done incredibly well. I'm really pleased to be on the Amazon bestseller list for years and years. Much thanks to Jules's Handle Your Own PR course, which we did very early on in the Cells Together for being able to do, able to write the book and promote the book. Now, the book came about because I really needed to get to women who thought that being good at finance had something to do with maths, that were made to feel ashamed about the way that we spend money and made to feel ashamed about our lack of knowledge of money.
Which is kind of me. Which is kind of me, I have
actually,
to say. Oh, sorry.
Right?
We've got a slight delay.
And the reason it's everyone is because 67% realizing that is about anything to do with money targets women as being frivolous.
Oh my God.
And being out and being unable to contending.
Wow.
Wealth and stuff that targets men as being in control, takers, daring and brave. And the difference is incredible. It's actually a study that was done by the bank, and I can find you so they can stick in the show notes. But it is fascinating how the whole money is just this patriarchal concept that we're not. But I can tell you now, from years of experience and years of working with both women and men about money, age have nothing to do with your financial competencies. So we wrote the book, and now we're doing courses in the book, but also we're doing courses for small business money, because the other thing that I found in studies is women over 50 are the fastest growing small business owners in Australia.
Yes.
Leave corporate because they're hitting some sort of glass. They just don't want to be there anymore, whatever.
Yeah.
Leaving corporate and starting. And a lot of starting our own thing has a lot to do with flexible working hours, because we may be in a situation where we've got to start caring for parents, where we've got children that are needing around a bit more, whatever it is, but we're starting to leave corporate at around that sort of 45, 50 year age, our own business. So we've also got a whole lot of services that we're setting up to hit that again with the money, because if you don't know your numbers in money, if you don't know your numbers in business, if you don't know your numbers at home, there's no way you can finances. So we're all about knowing your numbers.
Right. Wow, I am so shocked by that stat that and I'd never really thought about it, but of course you do hear all the time about women going on shopping sprees, whereas men, you know, don't enjoy shopping in the same way. But to think that then extends into mortgages, that extends into buying cars, all these things that women do all the time, I'm really shocked by that. But I love your Happy Money Journey book, and I love the course that you're creating as well. Was there Was there a particular situation that tipped you over that made you go, look, I'm just going to do a course about this? Was there a woman that you worked with? Is there a story behind it? Tell me.
There really is. We were in, I was one day, my mother walked in. Now, my mother's been in a relationship where she had a lot of coercive, not with my father, with a later relationship that she was in. So just to be very,
Sorry,
she was
Dad.
in a relationship that involved a lot of coercive control. That would do that. And with control, of course, comes the lack of confidence and the stress and all of that sort of shame, feeling like you're useless, because essentially you're getting someone who tells you every day that you're no good, you're not enough, you're a shit person. Anyway, mum had broken up from this relationship. She'd been apart from him for a couple of years. Two things happened. One, she came in one day and told me that told me and my whole office, so I'm presuming that this isn't a private story, told me and my whole office that she didn't catch the train home to where she lived in country Victoria. And the second thing that happened to her was that one day she discovered, and I to this day don't know how, one day she discovered that she had been paying his phone bill.
For him?
So for the whole time since they'd broken up. So this is maybe 3 or 4 years since they've broken up, and she's his phone bill. She never looked at her bank account. She just let shit go out of it. One day she didn't have enough money. She looked at her last 3 transactions, and one of them was a direct debit from Telstra, and she doesn't direct debit anything. She pays her bills. So he'd set up a direct debit on her account, and off she went, paying it for years.
Do you know, that's really interesting. Yeah, you should. Now that you mention that, I have teenage sons, and I discovered, this is why I now pay attention to my bank account, that Uber Eats had actually racked up about $3,000 out of my account that I hadn't noticed over 12 months. And my sons went, oh, we didn't realize it was your card in there. How, when you get $40 pocket money, you don't notice that you're able to afford, $50 Uber Eats bills? I don't know, but all I can say is I can relate, and I don't think that this is unusual at all. I would think, and of course, loads of us have got subscriptions going out all the time now with TV and everything else that's all on subscriptions, and you just don't notice it. So, yeah, that's a really, really good point. So you're particularly targeting women over 50, and and I know that you have also done a master's recently where you focused in this space. So talk a little bit about what you discovered when you were doing that too.
Well, so I discovered
a whole high distinction for.
I did actually get a high. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do the final subject of my MBA in entrepreneurship on my business, which was great because it got me doing a whole lot of research around what I was doing. And that's where I discovered that stat around how women are spoken to when it comes to finance, and also discovered a whole lot of other seemingly unrelated stats about the power of this group of women, and about how we're becoming much more influential when it comes to politics, and how, really the rise of the teals is also coinciding with this rise of these incredibly powerful 50-year-old women who are starting to walk away from that old patriarchal construct of I need to be the wife and the breadwinner, and I need to be the wife and the person at home, and becoming more and more the breadwinner. Now, there's some interesting stats around being a breadwinner as well, because family violence goes up for women that are earning more than their partners. So family violence goes up by 35% or 30%. There's a whole lot of I want to say fear and danger around becoming that woman yourself, and being in a position to be able to be self-supporting. So we go about this quite gently in our courses, and we talk about the conversations that you need to have when you're changing people's minds and changing people's ways of being, because I think also it hits men in its own way as well. So we're told that we're frivolous and can't control our spending, and men are told that they need to be in control and they need to know exactly what's going on, and they always be the hero. They need to be the one that's financially in control. And of course, that works as well for them as it does for us. You know, no one, no age or gender is going to be able to influence how you are financially. It just isn't. It's about the way you think, but it's also about your knowledge. And if you don't have the basic knowledge on how to manage your cash flow in a business or manage your credit and debits in your own personal accounts, then you're never ever going to relax enough to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And people talk about arguments about money as being the greatest cause of divorce. Stress about money is also one of the greatest causes, and I found this out during my studies as well, greatest causes of workplace absenteeism, because it causes so much stress. Because you get stressed when you have a physical reaction to the stress that you're getting. So you've got money stress coming at you from all angles. Nobody's taught you about money, because even if you learned it in school, you weren't applying it until your 30s. So anything that you learned about money, I can't remember anything I learned at school. Something about commas and full stops, but that's about all I've got. You know? Yeah. And I can't spell. I've got really messy handwriting and a spell checker. I honestly can't remember anything. I certainly wouldn't remember anything that wasn't going to be useful to me that day or the next. So even when you are taught about money in school, it just doesn't make sense, because it's our late 20s and early 30s that we really start to have to be in control of it.
And I wonder whether that has changed. As a woman myself, who at 57, so when I was at school, there was a tiny bit of kind of business. I think that there was some kind of a business course, but it was very, very small and very unusual. And yet I went on to run my own businesses really since I was the age of 24. However, I wonder now whether young women are learning more about finance at school, and so coming out and being certainly in my generation, there's an awful lot of us women that have been the main breadwinner in the family and had the husband who stayed home and looked after the kids for a while. And I don't think that it's as unusual as certainly as it used to be. But so therefore there will be women who are earning good money when they're younger and potentially do understand their finances better than this group that we're talking about women over 50, where really, I mean, I remember home economics as a even when I think of the name of the subject, home economics, because it was all about managing your budget for feeding your children, nothing. And so that was the cooking classes. And we never had anything like, you know, sort of, there was legal studies as well. I do remember that, but there wasn't anything, you know, really about how to manage your money with a career, how to invest, how to save, how to budget, that kind of thing. So, I mean, is that changing now? Do you think, is that a thing that women over 50 are dealing with that younger women aren't?
I actually do think it's a thing that women over 50 are dealing with, and women under 50 or under 40s deal with it so differently than the way we do, because they've got a different kind of men as well. See, a lot of those women are being brought up by men who come from a single mother.
They're our kids.
Kids, so right? They're our actual kids, and they're getting married to each other, and they get it, right? They get the need to let someone be independent, and they get the need to, you know, everyone's got their own dreams, and they're not. I don't believe that this generation is as financially focused as we are. I think they're focused on other things. I think they're focused on the environment. I think they're focused on making the world a better place. I'm quite lucky in that my father was married twice. My siblings are significantly younger than me. So my brother is 16 years younger than me. So I see his world and I see my world, and I see him and his friends, you know, making sure that they're doing the school pickup and doing all the things that involve themselves in their children's life. Because the other thing that happened to us as a generation was the absent father, the one that was, you know, needing to be working all the time and needing to be constantly at work. Whereas this generation seems to deal with that differently. But when I have the very early conversations with them, so I've got a couple, say, coming in and they're in their 30s, and we're talking about them getting a home loan or how they're managing their money or whatever we're doing, they they understand the need to have their own money plus shared money. They just deal with it all so differently. It's just they don't need the women over 50 need them. They just don't need them. They
and I understand that. And the other thing I think that's happening to a lot of women in their prime is that they're getting made redundant. And I think that the pandemic shone a real light on this, because so many people were let off. And then at the end of the pandemic, not all of them were given their jobs back. And so there's a lot of women now going, well, what am I going to do if I can't? So then they go looking, and the algorithms in the HR industry, for a lot of my experience and a lot of anecdotal experience I've had, is it's all done with numbers and algorithms, so they don't really get a look in. And so if you've been a senior marketing director or a senior in a senior role in an organization, and then you've left, to try and get another job as a 50-year-old woman, ridiculously, is quite hard. So I do feel that there's this wave of women over 50 that are just going, well, the only thing I can do now is employ myself and use my expertise to help others, which is the other thing. I think women are very purpose driven, which is very cool. But yeah, getting a handle on your money, if you're then running a business, is another whole extra level of stress and organization that you need to really educate yourself.
It's so true. And we kind of get by, and we kind of do enough. And particularly when we're jumping from that, highly paid corporate job, and I've got friends in that sort of CEO, general manager kind of realm. If they're unemployed, they're unemployed for months.
Yeah.
They leave one to go to the other.
I think the average is 18 months if you've been in a senior role and you're looking for another one. And I mean, how can anyone survive 18 months? Not only from the financial perspective, but it's also the mental stuff that's going on when you feel less than, because you just cannot get that job, and you don't understand it when you've been a leader in other roles. So yeah, it's huge. Okay, so tell me a little bit of a story about someone that you have worked with and how you've helped shift their mindset around money.
All right. Well, starting to do this, I did quite a lot of one-on-one coaching and helping people just really do make that mindset shift. The things that we think we can't do, the internal things that we think we just can't do. And I had one person who English was her sex. She would make a very good real estate agent. She was a bit older, but she loved property, and she loved property management, and she loved property development, and she loves property, and on her own, but really wanted to explore this career. Anyway, we did the numbers, did all the things, and worked out how she could actually set herself up. And instead of setting herself up, we sort of go through a whole process of looking at someone holistically and seeing where they're at, and working out, if I'm going to leave my 9 to 5, then I'm going to need to jump into this new career. How is this going to look for me? What do I need to do? What are all my aspects? How do I do my marketing and my, social media and all the stuff that I think that aren't intuitive and instinctive to us, because we've never used them before, and we're still thinking that pages, for those that are listening that are under 40, was a telephone directory that we used to get delivered to us. I can't even.
It's a bit like Google Maps on paper.
And it had all the names of all the businesses in it. But so we go through a process of, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And how are you going to get there? Anyway, during this process, we do a visioning exercise. So we talk about what her vision is for her future and where she sees herself. And I talk her through it, and she's writing it down or drawing it, and comes to the end of it, and she determines that she wants to do buyer's advocacy. She doesn't want to do real estate agents, because she doesn't want to work in a real estate agency. She is now one of the most successful buyer's advocates in Melbourne. So
wow.
That to me is one of the most successful that I've seen. But also, so that's one example of one of the things that we do. And that's a like one-on-one coaching consultation. It goes for about 3 hours, and it just blows people's minds. The other thing it does, because it's just, it's stuff that I've learned over the years. And And it's such a good thing to do because it really makes people think differently and
Yeah, I'm sure.
takes away a lot of those unconscious bias and unconscious boundaries that we put on ourselves and lets our mindset shift into the future. And we
Yeah.
always think that things are going to be better in the future, right? We always look at the future and go, that'll be okay. By the time I retire, things are going to be okay. But by this time next year, I've lost all that weight. By whatever.
That's
We're
right.
so
We just
optimistic
project.
about the future and then we get to that time because we haven't changed anything in our present. Nothing actually changes in our future. Next one that I'll tell you about is a quite different story. It's a woman that was in the middle of her
Yeah.
divorce. She's getting divorced
Right.
from someone who is a nut. I don't have a nice way of saying it. I know we're always called crazy as women, but no, this was a nut. So he wasn't actually really going to give her anything. He was working. He had everything. He wasn't going to give her anything except property settlement. She hasn't worked for maybe 15 years.
Ouch.
So she doesn't know what she's going to do. And then she doesn't know how to manage the money that she's managing, that she's suddenly going to get, because this is in her mind the money for the rest of her life.
Yeah, and
it's
she's right.
scary, and it's not very much. And should she buy a house or shouldn't she? And I think Australia is designed for home ownership. I think
it is totally.
we hear all these financial gurus in America and the UK, and it's great. They don't think you should buy a house, but here the whole system is all about you eventually owning your own home, because if you don't, you are essentially homeless and you die poor, because you're constantly renting, you're constantly moving, you never have security. But also your pension's not that much more if you're renting. So if you're renting and on the pension, or if you own your house and you're on the pension, there's not very much difference in the dollar value that you get. So
and rents are
be mindful, ladies. Let me get you into a house. Anyway, so should she do this? Feeling quite financially distraught. She'd been taught for her whole life that she was no good with money. This woman, no good with money, spent too much, spent too little, couldn't balance a budget. She was really fearful around spending anything at all. She wanted to just hold the money, and it was a significant enough amount that she would have got a reasonable interest from it. But she was just frightened of it. And taking that fear away and helping her into her home that was a suitable size, that gave her a spare bedroom, so when her grandchildren came over, she had somewhere for them to stay, that it would probably sell quite well, but is also going to be somewhere that she can live for until she's 100. And it's ground floor, and it's got a little garden, and it wasn't that expensive. And then be able to show her how to put aside some of her money. Next thing, she's feeling brave enough that she's going back to work, and she's gone back to teaching, to do a couple of hours, emergency teaching here and there, and is able to actually, because she's going to retire with super, right? None, she hasn't been working.
She'll have a house now.
But she'll have a house. So when she goes on the pension, she'll have a house. And she's able to build up a little bit of super. And then there's a whole lot of stuff around how old you are and how much you can put into super and how much extra you can put into super. That was really important for her to know as we made these plans. Now, that has made her have, instead of a small life where she was afraid to do anything, to having a big life where she's been able to travel, where she's been able to spend time with her grandchildren, where she's been able to, she lives right next door to a beautiful park. She loves life. And that's the difference that financial security makes to people. It's got nothing to do with the money itself or how much money you've got. And everyone sort of always goes out there thinking, if I earn a bit more, if I sell a bit more, if I do a bit more and I get a bit more money, I'm going to be happier. But that's not the key to happiness. The key to happiness is knowing what to do with your money when you've got it.
Yeah, great. And of course, that's the happy money journey, which brings us in a lovely circle. Now, if anyone wants to work with you or wants the book or, wants to do the course, what's the best way of them getting hold of you?
Best
or finding out more?
way of getting hold of us is jump.com.au, and the things that we offer go from, very specific one-on-one business planning type coaching right down to there's a $149 basic money course that you can just jump on and do yourself anytime.
Amazing.
We've got one-on-one coaching sessions we call happy hours, where you can just
I like it.
come on for your happy hour, and it's $300-ish, and
Yeah,
we
great.
we go through just a thing that you're doing, and so any of
Nice.
those things, and they're how we work with people.
So,
And of course then there's the mortgage broking as well.
okay, so that's phoebeblamey.com. And also, I know that you're all over LinkedIn. And are you on Facebook as well as Phoebe Blamey? Okay, great.
On Facebook as Phoebe Blamey, on Facebook and Instagram as Happy Money Journey as well. So if you want to find us, jump onto Happy Money Journey on either of those platforms. We've also got a weekly newsletter that is quite fun. So what weekly newsletter is, aside from doing our own blog and I've got my podcast, which is also called Happy Money Journey, coincidentally. Look up Happy Money Journey, you will find me. The newsletter is a bit of fun because it's just stuff that we've seen and stuff that we're doing. So it's not all about self-promotion. It's just really very much about, talking to our community about what
interesting things that have happened
they might be interested in. So
nice.
Blogs that we've listened to, books that we've watched, all that sort of stuff. So jump on that too. That's fun.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much, Phoebe. If anybody would like to know more about Phoebe, you've got all of her details there. Go to phoebeblamey.com. If you want to find out more about She's the Boss Group, which is a supportive network for women in their prime who are running their own businesses, go to she'sthebossgroup.com. You can also connect with me, Jules Brooke, on LinkedIn, or join the She's the Boss Facebook group, which is very active. I also run a course and coaching around how to become a woman of influence. And you can go to julesbrooke.com or she'sthebossgroup.com and look under services for that. And keep your eyes peeled for the Australian Women Speakers directory, which should be launching hopefully at the end of this week. So, and I should have said Happy International Women's Day week, Phoebe.
Of course, Happy International Women's Day week.
Have a great week. Thank you so much for this interview. It's been terrific, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks. I really have, Jules. And I can't recommend highly enough to people the importance of networking with similar business owners. The things that I've got out of that She's the Boss group are next level. They are such a beautiful and supportive group of women. I feel like I've made friends in there, but I also feel like I get really good understanding of what my business is and where my business is at, and get really good help and support from those women in that group, which I think is quite rare in those sort of groups. So I think something that people need to know.
Thank you very, very much. Well, that is very kind of you. Thanks.